What's going on, everybody? Aiden from Birds vs. Boys here, and what a way to kick off Super Bowl Sunday if you're an Eagles fan. Not only did the team that beat you in the Super Bowl last year make it back, but the team that talked trash about you the entire offseason is now playing in the Super Bowl. And oh, yeah, the day of the Super Bowl, while they are playing, your premier edge rusher in Haason Reddick has requested permission to seek a trade. So let's get into it. Let's get into some details first and then talk about why this just doesn't make a lot of sense. It doesn't feel like it makes a lot of sense from any way you spin it. So first, Haason Reddick signed a 3-year, $45 million contract back before the 2022 season. A homecoming of sorts from Camden, played at Temple, and is now back as an edge rusher after shifting from outside linebacker as a Cardinal and then making it to the Panthers as an edge rusher and then to Philadelphia. Home run signing right away. He had double-digit sacks. The team went to the Super Bowl, and then he followed it up this year with double-digit sacks again and was the best edge rusher on the team both of those seasons and felt like he was kind of taking over for Brandon Graham and taking over from him and some other guys and became a premier edge rusher in the league during that time. On top of that, the contract itself was incredible value. 3 years, $45 million, $15 million a year is perfect. So this is now the last year of that contract. So he is looking for an extension. As you can imagine, $15 million a year for someone of that caliber. He probably wants more, and he's going into the final year of that contract. If you remember, before the start of this season, he had thumb surgery during training camp, and he was interviewed during that time about a possible contract extension. And he kind of said along the lines of, you see it, you say it on tape. I really don't have to say anything about it. You know, the production is there and the money that I deserve. So it's been clear for over a year now that he would like a contract extension and would like to get paid for his production and his value. Now, all of that makes sense. The trade seeking itself and why the Eagles are allowing it to happen just doesn't make sense to me. And maybe I'm biased. Maybe I'm too close to the situation. I was at Temple the same time Haason was there. I love it. The fact that he is from there, I've been watching him since he was a junior in college, and now he's playing for my favorite football team. Maybe I'm just too close to the situation. But any way I look at it, I just don't really understand allowing him to walk and just not paying him ourselves. So you look at it, we just touched on production. He's got double-digit sacks every year since 2020. That's among the likes of like TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, who just won Defensive Player of the Year. And this is a position in edge rusher that the Eagles covet. We talk about it all the time. When we do draft concepts and draft shows and everything of that nature, we talk about how much the Eagles value infrastructure in building through the line out. They always invest in offensive line in the draft. They always invest in defensive line. Most notably, they just drafted edge rusher Nolan Smith with a first-round pick a year ago. This is a position that they covet and they desire. And now you're getting double-digit sack production year after year from a guy and you don't want to pay him? That just doesn't make a ton of sense to me. And I get, he's 29. You don't want to be the one who's in the musical chairs, who's left without the chair and he's old on a bad contract. But he's the same age as TJ Watt and he's the same age as Chris Jones, who is playing in the Super Bowl, had a great year. And before the season, that was a big storyline that he was getting the contract extension with the Chiefs as well. So now we sit here and we say, okay, there's 1 year left and we're not going to give this guy an extension with that type of production. He's up there with some of the best edge rushers in the game. And listen, I'm all about finding good value, fair value. Howie Roseman has fleeced a lot of teams and gotten great draft compensation, most notably with the Carson Wentz deal, which led to a lot of these picks that we've had in recent years with getting AJ Brown in the first round via a trade, or having 2 first-round picks for Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith a year ago. What compensation are we looking for that would equal the production that you're getting from Haason Reddick? Say they even got a first-round draft pick for him, which I doubt that they would, considering he's on the last year of his deal. And albeit I think a lot of teams would give him that contract extension, so they'd be willing to pay. But I think a first-round pick would be too steep for him, even as productive as he has been. So what are you looking for compensation-wise that is going to equal consistency from a guy who is 29 years old and has had double-digit sacks for each of the past 4 seasons? I just don't get what we're looking for in return that's going to equal that. And another thing with it, durability wise, Zach Byrne brought this up. He has been in the league 7 years. He hasn't missed a game with the Eagles, and he's missed one game in the last 7 seasons. So again, production, value, all of these things, it's not equating to draft pick compensation that could equal what Haason is already giving you. This feels like a real mystery box situation where they say, well, we're going to give you a boat, or you can have whatever's in the mystery box. And you're like, well, I'll take the mystery box because it could be anything. It could even be a boat. That's how it feels when we're talking about trading Haason Reddick. Okay, you don't want to be the one who pays him. I don't understand that. But what are you going to get in return that is equal to Haason Reddick? And if you're not willing to spend the money on Haason Reddick, what are you willing to spend the money on? This is a position in edge rusher that is valuable in a premier position in the league. You see it day one of the draft. Everyone is going quarterback, edge rusher, or offensive tackle to stop edge rushers. So if you're not paying Haason Reddick as an edge rusher, and a very good one at that, what are we spending the money on? What are we going to do differently? Who is going to play edge rusher instead of him? And not only that, Brandon Graham has said if he comes back, he'll be left for 1 year. And Josh Sweat is also in a contract year. So now you might be losing 3 edge rushers on the defensive line if Haason Reddick is traded. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. If you trade him, what are you getting in return that is of value to this team? I just don't get this move any way that I put it. From a money point of view, from a draft compensation point of view, from an on-field production point of view, even from an age point of view, knowing that he is 29, but it is very comparable to a lot of the edge rushers in the league who are still producing at a high level. Max Crosby, TJ Watt, Myles Garrett, all of these guys. So I really just don't get the idea of trading him and doing this mystery box thing where the best possible outcome is that one of your draft picks, maybe it's even Nolan Smith, turns into Haason Reddick, who you have on the team right now. Now, another point that's been brought up, this is not the first time that the Eagles have allowed a player to search around, do some window shopping, see if there's a better deal and a better extension for them out there, and bring the trade to the Eagles to see if they can work something out. Most notably, Darius Slay this past offseason did it. Fletcher Cox did it as well. Both of those players ended up back with the Eagles, and they got deals worked out. I am hopeful that we run into a similar situation here with Haason Reddick, where the Eagles say the compensation doesn't match. And again, I don't know what you are going to get draft compensation-wise or player compensation-wise that is going to equal the value and the production of Haason Reddick. Or they say, listen, there's not a better deal for you out there. Let's work together. Let's work something out. Let's see if we can get you paid for the next 2 or 3 years on top of the year that we have for you right now. I'm just a big on rewarding the guys. You got great value. 3 years, $45 million, $15 million a year, pretty straightforward contract. And you got one of the best edge rushers in the league who's been out there week after week for you. I don't really get what we're going to do differently. I think we should reward our guys like that, even if we're paying someone who will be, 32, 33 at the end of the contract. To me, this just makes sense. And it does not make sense to let him walk at the end of the season if you don't find a trade, or if you just trade him straight up this year and you almost go into rebuild fire sale mode from the defensive line point of view, because you could be losing Brandon Graham, Fletcher Cox, Josh Sweat, and Haason Reddick within the calendar year. That just doesn't make a lot of sense to me. So I hope that this is just like Slay and it's just like Fletcher Cox, and Haason Reddick is back out there come August and there is pen to paper on a new deal. This has to get done. This is not a guy you trade, and there is no way that you can spin it that this makes sense. Even if you were to get a first-round pick for it, it just becomes the mystery box situation as we mentioned before. So it is not the way that I wanted to start Super Bowl Sunday, and it is not the way that I want to spend the offseason deciding if the Eagles are going to trade Haason Reddick. They do not actually get any money on top of this. They would save $700,000 if they trade him by March 1st. The dead caps don't make a lot of sense. So let's see what happens and how this plays out in the next month or so. See if he is actually traded. I'm sure there will be bidders on the market. Are they willing to give him a deal better than what the Eagles are willing to give him? I hope not. I hope Haason Reddick returns to the Eagles. We'll be back this week. We'll be recapping the Super Bowl and everything that's happening around the league. There are some storylines with both the Eagles and the Cowboys, and obviously we got to talk the big game as well. So we'll be back then. Hopefully Haason Reddick is back as well.